So how many of you guys here for the first time? Raise your hand. I love it. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. How many of you guys are here for the 21st time? Raise your hand. Okay. Now, in between, how many of you guys are here for the 10th time? So we're going to have a little vote. If you are a wholesaler or striving to be a wholesaler, make some noise. If you are a rehabber or striving to be a rehabber, make some noise. If you are a buy and hold investor or striving to be a buy and hold investor, make some noise. But most importantly, if you are a transaction engineer, striving to be a transaction engineer, make some noise. That's what I'm talking about. Woo! This is what we call how to wholesale real estate on a Netflix and McDonald's budget. In other words, there's going to be a lot of information that will allow you to do this business, and I hate this word, in the cheap, but for a low entry point. Keep that in mind. But first, how many of you guys know the story of Tammy Blair and the Mad Scientist? If you know the story, raise your hand. If you don't know the story, keep your hands down, because either way, I'm going to still tell you the story. I'm going to do that. It started.
You going to put on your British accent?
It started about so many years ago. That's not good. I can't do British. It started many moons ago in the projects of East Baltimore. Douglas Projects. That's where I was born and raised. And the only picture I could find on Douglas Projects had police tape and policemen right there in the middle of one of our unit areas. So to say that that area was rough would be an understatement. For those of you who know, I'm that guy that used to be a security guard at Johns Hopkins Hospital, dropped out of junior high school in the 9th grade, have a 9th grade education, still currently with that same 9th grade education. And at this point in time, that job at Johns Hopkins Hospital was like a ball and chain around my neck. However, it made me realize something, that if I didn't do something with a 9th grade education, there's not much you'll be able to achieve. So, the first thing I did was got a job as a Kirby vacuum cleaner salesman. And that's not me on the side. Corey, you probably have to turn the volume down some. That's not me on the side there. But one of the things we had to do was going around West Baltimore selling vacuum cleaners, getting on people's floors and cleaning them and vacuuming them and shampooing them. And I always tell people that if you can sell a $1,400 vacuum cleaner knocking on doors, you can do anything. And I didn't sell not one damn one. I'm surprised people still laugh at that joke. However, one of the things that it taught me was that if you can be comfortable being uncomfortable, you can do anything. Because that's what that lesson, and everything in life that you do is a lesson. That was the lesson that I learned from that job. Next, what came along was Carlton Sheets. And this was at the beginning of me wanting to learn the business. And just like everybody in this room may have failed, I was one of those individuals that was going to walk away from the business until my wife, Tammy, told me. And this was at the time when I was getting frustrated because I was learning this stuff, but it wasn't clicking. And I was ready to give up. She said, no, you ain't getting up. You're working too hard for what you want to do in life. The school system couldn't touch me. The only thing that could reach my mind was real estate. And I was actually about to give it up. Then I opened up the course after getting it 3 times, and it changed my life. At that point in time, I went out and found a mentor, and my salary was $50 a week in lunch. And that's why I say, don't expect anyone to give you anything. You have to make yourself valuable enough for them to want to work with you. Don't ask, give. Even if it's just your time, if you want to get to know the knowledge that you want to achieve and you don't have money, make yourself valuable to that person who has that knowledge. And that's what I did. I didn't have money. So I told him I would work in his business. And he paid me $50 a week in lunch. And that was the highest paying job I ever had. Because after that job, I became a full-time investor. And been a full-time investor now for 30 plus years. At one point in time, was the largest minority owner of apartment buildings in downtown Baltimore. Their company called Mount Vernon Properties. Over 350 units. And that took a total of 4 years of just breaking my butt trying to learn this business. 4 years. Today, everybody starts the same way. We start fumbling, we start stuttering, we start being afraid, we start having fear, we start having doubt, we start having issues, we start having problems, but those problems can't be the reason why you give up on what you want or what you believe to be true. Everybody, I call this Generational Wealth Saturday. Everybody who bring a question to the table, and what do I mean by the table? April, are we live on Facebook? If you go to our Facebook profile page and leave a question there regarding anything you're hearing today, I'm going to give you these bonuses. So yes, you can ask a question by raising your hand, or you can go to Charles Blair Facebook page, click on that image, and you'll see the live broadcast and leave your questions. And April will read your questions out. And you will get these bonuses that we're giving on Generational Wealth Certainty. 1, I'm going to give you my Wholesale Deal Analyzer spreadsheet. This spreadsheet will help you automate analyzing wholesale deals. 2, you're going to get my Seller Deal Analyzing spreadsheet. This will actually you can use in your business working with sellers to analyze what's going on with their whole aspect. You can also get the Rehab Fix and Flip Analyzer. I know this is all about wholesaling, but if you get into the business of rehabbing, this is going to take you to the next level and help you analyze your rehabs and flips. You're going to also get my Marketing Leads Calculator. That's going to allow you to analyze your marketing leads to determine whether or not what leads are working and what leads are not working. You're going to also get my lead machine tracker. When you get leads, you got to know exactly how to know those numbers. What was the actual KPI, what's not there, and what you need to be getting involved with. And last but not least, you're going to get my comps calculator. This will help you understand exactly what the comps are to your deals. And I'm going to give that to everyone who leave a comment on the Facebook profile page. And that comment should be a question about something you hear, or raise your hand and ask a question during the presentation. Now, that's not all. We're talking about Generational Wealth Saturday. For new investors getting started in this business, I'm going to give you my DMVRI groups that you should be joining spreadsheet. This is a spreadsheet of all the top real estate investor groups that you should join. You're going to also get a copy of my DMV cash buyers. Who need cash buyers? There's over 500 cash buyers on this actual spreadsheet. You're going to also get my DMV hard money lender spreadsheet. Who need hard money lenders? We got over 300 hard money lenders on this actual spreadsheet. You're going to also get a copy of my DMV title company spreadsheets. If you want to know what title companies you can work with that are investor friendly, you're going to get a copy of that. And you're going to also get a copy of my DMV wholesalers. These are individuals who are actually wholesaling in the DMV. You're going to get their names, their telephone numbers, their information on Facebook, and so on. And last but not least, you're going to get my DMV contractors spreadsheet. Who need contractors for rehabs? You're going to get that spreadsheet. And how much is it going to cost you? Free $99.
How much?
Free $99. And all you have to do is participate. That's it. Ask a question on the Facebook profile. Ask a question during this meeting. Participate. And that's the number one reason why most people fail, because they do not participate.
Okay. All right. So what he said is true, because we're in here. This is some real stuff that Charles is giving out here. I'm telling you, this stuff helps people like build generational wealth, like he's saying and stuff. I'm telling you, retire and whatnot. So somebody's giving you all this. It's a blessing. And when you get a blessing, you got to thank God. So participate. Ask some questions. The only dumb question is the one you don't ask. So make sure you ask questions. Who cares? I mean, so a lot of people are savvy with the terms and words. So what? They were just like some of the first comers when they came in here. So just ask questions, ask questions, and we'll answer them for you. That's our ability.
I couldn't have said it better myself. That's what it's all about. Now, let's get started. True or false? How many of you believe that wholesaling is illegal? Thank you. There's a big misconception going on online right now by all these so-called gurus that wholesaling is illegal. I think it was perpetuated by the real estate agents.
Be careful. Be careful.
I could be wrong. Denise, am I wrong? She's an agent. Look at her. She ain't denying it. Real estate wholesaling is not illegal. However, in some states, you have to have a license to do it. Now, there's a few of them. Ohio, Chicago, Philadelphia. You have to get a license to do wholesaling. So, for you, I would highly recommend, I can't believe I'm about to say this. I think maybe you should get, oh my God, I can't believe I'm saying it. Maybe you should get your real estate license. Because when it happens in 1 or 2 or 3 cities or states, there seems to be a trickle-down effect. So sooner or later, it may come here. So if you say, should you, as a wholesaler, get your license? In the past, I would say you don't need it. I'm still going to say you don't need it, but I believe in handling or bringing an umbrella to the ring. So if it does occur, you can be covered. The biggest question we have is, well, Charles, what is wholesaling? Corey, what's wholesaling?
Wholesaling is when you have a buyer, you have a seller under contract, and now with that contract, you have equitable rights to that property. And basically, you're going to assign or sell your equitable rights to the end buyer.
So think about what Corey just said. He did not say that you will be buying the property. He said you will use a piece of paper to put the property under contract, and you're going to sell that piece of paper to your end buyer. Now, what allows you to do it? He said a very important word. What's that word, Corey?
Assign.
And one more other word.
Equitable rights.
Exactly. That's what allows you to sell your interest of that contract for a profit. So forget about the whole stuff. Yes, baby. I'll come to you, definitely.
Well, real quick, I'm gonna tell
Go
you
ahead.
how many agents do we have? Raise your hand if you're an agent, right? If, of course, so you went to school.
Mm-hmm.
There's a part in class where they talk about assigning contracts.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very small part that they talk about assigning contracts.
Mm-hmm.
At no point do they say it's illegal to assign a contract, and basically changing one name to be another name is what they talk about assigning. So they teach it in class in a very small portion.
So with that being said, there's a reason why it's a very small portion. Because if it was a larger portion, who would want to be an agent? No, I didn't mean that, Denise. I didn't mean that. You still should get your license. But keep that in mind. There may be roadblocks coming down the road if you're going to be doing wholesaling in different jurisdictions. Right now, there's 3 locations where you have to have a license to do it. By no way, shape, or form is it illegal. And the process of wholesaling is nothing more than putting a property under contract and assigning that paper to your end buyer.
And another point, as far as it being illegal, if it were illegal, title companies wouldn't do it because they have license too.
Exactly. April, give me a question. Keep this.
All right, Jordan Mosley wants to know, what is the fastest way to estimate repairs for your subject property?
George, that's a great question. The question is, what is the fastest way to estimate repairs for your subject property? I'm going to give you an answer. Not right now. We will cover that during the presentation. It's a whole section that talks about the numbers. So stay on that broadcast. We will cover it then. Yes.
I have a question.
Go.
Give me 1 second.
Hi, my question is, what is a good call service to use to organize all of your calls and to, I guess that's it.
What is a good call service to use to organize all your calls? I will ask you that question later. We will be covering that question as well in the presentation. So, yes.
My question is, when you assign, how much time do you have before you find a buyer?
The question is, how much time do you have before you find the buyer? And the easy answer is, what, Corey?
Is what you negotiate.
There you go. So there is no set We got to close in 15 days. We got to close in 20 days. We got to close in 30 days. It's whatever you can get that seller to agree on that contract. Here's a little trick that we do. One of the ways we get more time is by saying something like 30 banking days. 30 banking days actually equal 45 days. Because you're counting the actual days of the week and not the weekend. So it's really 45 days. But the key is, like Corey just mentioned, it's whatever you negotiate. And that's something that I want you guys to understand. There are some set rules, but there's more often than not, there's no set rules. It's whatever you can think of. Now, go.
I don't know if this is my question. My first time, I just want to ask.
Go ahead.
If you get a seller to sell at home, and they're not the only decision maker, and it's 3 decision makers, and there's
Okay.
only one that don't want to sign.
Okay.
What do you do?
Corey, you want to take that one?
That's a little difficult one
But
because,
repeat the question first.
so the question is, if you have multiple decision makers and one does not want to sign, what do you do? Is that the question?
Yes.
That's a broad, it can be a broad answer, but in those situations, what I would normally do, because first, all decision makers have to agree. If they're on title, all decision makers have to agree.
Just remember that. Remember what he said. If they're on title, all have to agree.
So if you have like 2 people, but one, they have really nothing to do with the property on paper, that part doesn't matter, right? But in those situations, what I would try to do is appeal to whatever the needs are of that person that's holding out. If the other 2 are on board, I'm gonna have a conversation or try to find out what the needs are for that one and see if I can appeal to that one person in order to get the deal done, to get them on board.
And I'll give you an example of that. Right now, we have a deal that we're working on. It's a land deal in Philadelphia Road. It's over 9 acres. And the owner, or should I say the deciding member of the actual deal, keeps going ghost on us. And what does that mean? He keeps disappearing. We gave him an offer of over $425,000 to buy this land. My partner and I want to put what we call a solar farm there. And he just keeps disappearing on us. But we found out that there's other people involved in the deal. So me being the savvy investor that I am, I decide to send a letter to all the other heirs and tell them, hey, did you know that we made an offer of $425,000 and your person who's handling the actual process turned it down? The next day they got the letter, they called me up. No, we did not know that. So in other words, go after the greed of others in this transaction. Because for one thing, all parties may not know what's going on. So make all the parties know what's going on, that money is right here waiting for you if you can get this person to respond. So that's another way you can handle it. Yes?
I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry.
You're fine.
Please.
So, I tried my first deal in Baltimore, New Jersey.
Okay.
However, it was a short sale.
Okay.
So the owner was trying to just get rid of the property.
I love it. I love it. Go ahead.
However, once we looked at all the basics, we ran the calculations and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Our offer price was $85K. However,
What was the property worth?
the property was worth, I want to say 182.
And what was the mortgage balance that you did a short sale on?
It was, if I can remember correctly, I can't remember that part.
Okay.
But when I made my offer to the seller, I'm not sure what I did wrong, because I can just say the offer fell off after I told him my offer price and I gave it like a few weeks and I touched bases with him. I'm not sure what happened, because the information that I got, the house was priced on 220, and that was included with the bank
Mhm.
and the attorney fees and everything like that.
Right.
So maybe was my offer price a little too low?
But here's the thing. Corey, I want you to touch on this one too. You made an offer and then you didn't hear anything, correct? Corey, what happened?
A few things could have happened, right? So one thing I tell people all the time, your offer is not always about money, right? So if you have matter of fact, you're sitting next to a person who we just closed the deal with the situation where, I know, I don't want to talk about it out
we
there,
don't
right?
want to talk about that.
It's crazy, but the thing was, she lived in a home for like 40 years?
It was a divorce couple or something.
Well, I'm asking questions. Okay, I was asking questions like 40 years, right? So she lived in the house for 40 years, raised her kids and everything. It wasn't about the money for her. It was about the sentimental value. We got to the point, we got to the day the title company said, I'm pressing the button to send the wire. She's like, no, I don't want it. Right? So we had to go back and have this conversation. So it could be the fact that they're just not ready emotionally or mentally. You know, it could be, it's not always about you. So you have to find out, what is that thing? How can you appeal? Is it money? Is it time? Is it emotion? Whatever that thing, just keep following up with them.
Now, but you know what the real reason is? You will not buy every deal. Some deals will just slip away in your fingertips without you ever knowing why. All we can do is do our best, put forth our best foot, and continue to follow up. That's the one thing that Corey said that I want you to keep understanding. Continue to follow up. You guys beat your heads so hard because deals fall away. And it's not because you did something wrong for the most part. Not every seller really need to sell. Notice that word, that 4 letters. Need to sell. And that's who you're looking for.
Real quick, let me put it this way, right? So you hear a lot of sports analogies, and like you have a basketball player that in practice they took 6,000 shots. I'm just making up a number, but they took a lot of shots, right? They missed a whole bunch, but then they didn't give up. When they're in the game, though, it was the shots that went in that counted. Had they stopped in practice because I missed these shots, they wouldn't be in the game. Does it make sense?
What is it Michael Jordan said? You miss every shot you don't take.
Exactly.
Take the shot, regardless.
We have 2 questions. We have one here. And
Yes. And I'll repeat the question so everybody will hear.
Okay, so my question is, when looking for a property, should we kind of focus on the stuff that's on the market, like on an MLS, or focus on the ones that are not in the market?
both.
Well,
That's a great question. And here's what I'm going to tell you. There's only so many hours in the day, so the focus has to be delivered in a certain amount of time frame. I'm a firm believer that I'm not going to spend 8 hours trying to find deals, trying to talk to people online where everybody else is finding those deals. I don't play that game where I'm competing against everybody else that has the MLS. You will always find your best deals. I don't care what anybody tells you. You will find your best deals whenever you can reach out to that homeowner yourself. Always. Because you have the ability to negotiate and structure it the way you need or the way you see fit. Not based on an arbitrary number that was already set by somebody else who didn't know what the profit you want to make. So, yes, you can spend time online looking for opportunities. Don't make that your only bucket to find opportunities. One more question. One more question.
Let me add to that though. Because one thing that we've always taught our power team, right? You have, especially when you're wholesaling, your power team, your title company, your real estate agent, and your contractor, right? So definitely, I'll preach all day about finding off-market deals, right? But at the same time, you also want to leverage your power team, which will be your real estate agent in that particular situation, where we can set a criteria for what you're looking for. So while you're looking over here, you're also leveraging the tools and the systems that your investor-friendly agent has, and is automatically sending you things. So that's why I say both. You know, so you have things coming to you on a consistent basis while you're still looking for those off-market deals.
Second person, question.
We have one right here.
Yes.
I have a question. When you're dealing with a seller who is emotionally attached to a property, gives you an unrealistic price, you view the property, you give them the comps, you give them the rehab, it would take you to rehab the property. You get that seller to the point where they become unemotionally attached and realize that what you're giving them, and you're not trying to take their property, but you're trying to help them, relieve them of that property, and then you do what you need to do with the property.
And your question is?
How do you get the owner to emotionally unattached or realize that that is not a reasonable offer for that property?
That's an easy answer. You gave it already. The only way you can beat emotion is with facts. And the only way you will beat emotion with facts is if the person believes
There you go.
your facts. So if they don't believe your facts, no matter what, remember what I said? You will never get every deal. Write this down. You can not convince a seller to sell his property. All you can do is convince the seller to sell their property to you. You cannot convince them to sell. They have to be ready to sell. And if they're not ready to sell, nothing you will say will change their mind. It goes back to stop beating your mind up. Stop beating yourself up because you don't get a deal. Now, some of you may not have done all the tricks of the trade, and we're going to cover what those tricks are where you can get that person to the point of understanding, is this person a real seller or is this person just looking for noise? I'm going to get to your question. I just want to continue through and then we'll get some more questions up. Fear is not real. That's the number one reason why people fail in this business. This came from a movie that I love with Will Smith. And this is what he said. The only place that fear can exist is in our thoughts of the future, product or our imagination, causing us to fear things that do not in present and may not ever exist. That's what fear is to a lot of us. Well, what if the person says yes when I call? Well, what if I stumble when I'm talking on the phone? Or what if I can't get the money to close the deal? Or what if my contract runs out of time? Or what if? I said it earlier. You missed 100% of all the shots you don't take. I know that this can be scary. I know that this can be very challenging for my new investors. I know it. But you have to get in the game in order to score. You have to take that shot. You have to make those phone calls. You have to sign that paperwork. You have to drive for those dollars. You have to speak to those homeowners. You have to do that. If you really am trying to make wholesaling work. And the reason why some of us, because I was in that boat, why some of us don't let real estate work Because our job pays us well enough. Hell, I got a paycheck coming in. I don't need this hat. I don't need to deal with this on the phone. Are you kidding? Person told me to drop dead and they're going to call the police on me? Exactly. Say it again. So,
well, I have a quick question for everybody, right? And how many people in here, raise your hand, how many people have a job, right?
No.
Okay, okay. So you have a job. How many people, keep your hands up, keep your hands up. How many people started their job and knew exactly what to do from day one? From day one.
As a matter of fact, some of them still know what they're doing on their job.
Right. Well, we're going to talk about them though, right? So, how did you get good at the job that you have now? Practice. You go to work every day, right? And you do it every day. So now, you've been there however long, and how many people are good at their jobs? Raise your hands. You're the job.
So, what is that telling you? Everybody has these issues regardless of the industry, regardless of the situation. You just have to decide, do I want this bad enough? That's all you have to decide. Do I want this bad enough? We have people in this room closing 6 deals in 30 days, closing $15,000 wholesale fees, $80,000 wholesale fees, $150,000 profits from land development. I'm talking about rent money that is real. Because they said, I'm going to do whatever it takes to make this thing work. So that's the first thing. Now, we talked about practice. I'm going to give you a little nugget that you can do to practice. And if you pass this nugget, if you pass this test, then you may have what it takes to do real estate investing. I want you to reach out and go to any site that has for sale by owners. And I want you to contact as many for sale by owners that you can and ask them about buying their property. I want you to speak to at least 20 people who says they have a house they want to sell. And I want you to get their information about that property they want to sell. 20 people. I'm going to tell you right now, that's going to decide who wants it and who's just pretending. Why? Because in order to do what I just told you to do, it's going to take you over 150, 200 phone calls. And some of you are going to say, all I'm doing is getting wholesalers. All I'm doing is getting agents. All I'm doing is getting cursed out on the phone. But if you can get through this and get that 20 sellers who really want to sell, you may have what it takes. Now, what else does that do? It allows you to practice to talk to people. It allows you to handle or beginning to learn how to handle objections. It allows you to be comfortable being uncomfortable. That's what that exercise will do for you. It's practice. Let's talk about the process of how do you go from getting or hearing to closing. First of all, it begins with the engagement. The engagement can be any type of marketing form, maybe offline, online, inbound, or outbound. That's what we're talking about. How is that first reaction done with that seller? Is it done by the seller calling you? Or is it done, that's called outbound marketing. Or is it done by you calling the seller, you calling the seller? You have to understand that the beginning of your process of getting that first deal begins with engagement. Engaging in a conversation or engaging in a marketing practice or engaging in a marketing piece to your potential lead. The next step is researching the property. Once the seller calls you, you have to do your due diligence. You have to research the property. Corey, touch on that.
So researching the property, you're talking about skip tracing. You're talking about, well, you got in contact with the seller already, but you're talking about knowing your numbers, right? And knowing your numbers is the biggest tool that you're going to have when negotiating with the sellers.
So we're talking about what are the comps of the property. We're talking about what maybe the repair cost would be of the property. We're talking about, is that the real owner of the property? We're talking about, does the property even exist?
Explain that, because some people may not understand what that means.
I can tell you of a deal that I recall where a person purchased a property online at an auction for $35,000. And it was a hell of a deal because the properties in the neighborhood were selling for over $200,000. And when he went, because he finally did not go to the actual property, he actually saw a picture of the property. But when he went and saw his property, it was nothing but a wall. So he bought a wall for $35,000. How many guys have seen the walls where you have windows in them, but there's no roof? You can look up in the sky and see the sky. That's what he purchased. So you have to do your research. Yes, you can do investing virtually. Absolutely you can. And we're going to talk about and show you how you can do that. But the next step in your phase is researching the numbers, researching the deal once you spoke to the seller. Third step, you gotta make an offer. And this is the mad scientist way. So I went ahead and researched the property. I went ahead and got all my numbers. If the property is free and clear, I make my offers, or should I say free and clear, and have a low mortgage balance. I make my offer at the property. So every property that has a low mortgage balance and every property that is free and clear, I'm making that offer at the property. If there's a substantial mortgage balance, I'm going to make the offer on the phone. And the reason why, I do not want to waste time. I can't tell you how many investors have come to me and said, Charles, I went and saw 80 properties and I could not get any deal in the contract. Because you saw 80 properties that 9 times out of 10 didn't have any equity in them. So I want to go to the property when I know there's equity and make the offer there. Why? Because you have a better way of making that connection with that seller when you're looking at them face to face. Because I can take my paperwork with me and say, this is my offer. Let's close this deal today. So make your offer either at the property or on the phone. That's step 3 to wholesaling. Step 4, a lot of equity. I'm going to the property. I'm going to walk around. I'm going to look at the repairs. I'm going to say yes or no. I'm going to say, okay, this is the offer I can make. I already know what the comps is because I did my research. And this right here, I already know now that I'm at the property, I know how to estimate the repairs. I already know what kind of repairs it needs. So when I go to the property, it's to solidify my offer. If I made an offer on the phone, I'm still going to go to the property to solidify the offer that I made on the phone. So if I made an offer of $100,000 on the phone based on $30,000 worth of repairs, my reason for going to the property is make sure that my numbers on the phone are correct. That it's only $30,000 worth of repairs. And if the numbers are wrong, I'm going to tell that homeowner, you said the property didn't need any repairs. I'm sorry, but I can't walk on this floor. It's almost caving in. You have a hole in the ceiling. Now, one thing I want you to understand, Never embarrass the seller. What I do, I'll look at something and I'll say, Miss Johnson, are you sure that this house doesn't need any repairs? I know I said I could give you $100,000 on the phone, but of course that was based on seeing the property. Now, once we've seen the property, we're going to have to adjust these numbers. And this is what we can do to take this off your hands. And that's how I would handle it. I'm not trying to embarrass the seller. You will not get a deal from somebody that's embarrassed. People like doing business with people who they like, know, and trust. And if you can't fill those shoes of like, know, and trust, then it's going to be hard for you to get the deal. Not to mention, people will trade equity because they like, know, and trust you. That's the key. We want them to trade equity. Put the property under contract. Once you go to the property, you put it under contract. You do not leave that house without them signing, and I said the word contract, I meant paperwork. Because when I'm at the property, they're filling out the paperwork. When you give a person a contract, they want a lawyer to read it. So when I give them the paperwork, I want them to read it. Now, once they sign it, it becomes a contract again. Because I want them to understand the obligation of the fact that they signed a contract. So prior, it's paperwork. After, it's contract. Don't mess with my contract. But let's go ahead and do this paperwork. Yes.
Quick question. So I would like to know, when you are reaching out to folks, like, you communicating with them, the owner, and kind of like the transaction you're talking about, am I approaching them as I'm the investor myself, or am I approaching them as I work?
Great question. The question is, who am I when I reach out to the seller? My answer is, it depends on how you reach out previously. If your marketing piece says, which Al says, Chucky buy lucky houses, I'm Chucky, and I buy lucky houses. But if my marketing piece says that I work for a company or I work with a group of companies, I'm a representative of that company. So whatever you originally said, you don't have to hide the fact that you are an investor. You don't have to hide that fact. One of the terminology that we are getting away from, and we have been, is the terminology of we buy houses. I know it's going to be a shock to you guys, but that terminology is slowly but surely getting a negative imprint in people's minds. So what we say is we don't just buy houses, we build communities. So keep that in mind.
We have a question.
Yes.
Yes, Charles, I have an online question. It says, do I need to give seller a pre-knowledge that I will reassign the contract?
Oh my goodness, now you're talking law. You're talking the real good, dirty stuff. Woo! Do I have to give the seller heads up that I'm going to assign the contract? Ethically speaking, absolutely I would do it. And I'll tell you why. Because I don't have a problem letting the seller know. And this is how we do it in our mastermind group. When we tell the seller that we're going to assign the property, we say, oh, by the way, Ms. Jackson, we have a group of investors that we work with. If we're unable to buy the property, we're going to sell the property to one of our investors. Will that work for you? Not to mention, we're going to get you the same price that we agree upon with us. And that's how we do it. So it's an ethical question that you have to decide, do I want to keep it under wraps that I'm going to assign it? But I'm a firm believer. Anything I put under contract, I'm going to close on, regardless if I find a buyer or not. It should be good enough for you to close on if you put it under contract. But there's ways in which you could tell the seller, and like I said, we do it all the time, telling the seller that we're not going to close on it. We have buyers that we work with, and if we can't close on the deal, one of our buyers will buy it at the same price. Will that work for you? Remember, it's all about the need, the motivation. That's the key.
We have a question.
So when, let's say, writing up the contract.
Yes.
There are certain things that need to be put in that contract when you are either wholesaling with the owner or going through an agent.
And we're going to talk about that in the section that talks about the contract. So yes, I will be covering that. Next step, step 6. Once you put the property under contract, you got to deliver it to the title company that you're going to work with. And this is very important because you want that title search and the lien search done immediately once you put it under contract. Now, there is reasons why you may not take it to a title company right away once you get it under contract. One of those reasons may be is that you're not sure if you're going to find a buyer. And some investor would not put it to the title company until they find a buyer. They will hold on to it. Why? Because the minute you give it to the title company to start doing that lien search and title work, you're going to have a charge. Whatever work they do, if that deal falls through, you will have to pay it. It could be a few hundred. It could be 1,000. But you have to pay it at that point if you do not find a buyer for that deal. Because the title company wants their money. And somebody has to pay them. Now, you deliver it to the title company. It doesn't stop with that. Once you deliver it to the title company, you have to keep an eye on that contract. And as a matter of fact, one of the things I want to tell you is, in Maryland, the buyer has the right to choose the title company they want to close with. However, as investors, we've been through issues where the buyer has all kinds of sneaky crap going on because the title company is in their hip pocket. And they can figure all kinds of ways to back out a deal without giving you your earnest money deposit. So what we usually say as wholesalers is that the buyer must close with our title company. And 99% of the investors who you work with, because that's mainly who's going to buy these deals when you're wholesaling, they will have no problem with that whatsoever. The exception to that is when they're bringing hard money and the hard money lender says, no, wait a minute. I don't have a problem with your title company doing the paperwork, but my title company has to review everything.
Right.
That's the exception. But whenever you put a property under contract, in that contract, you're going to say, you must close with my title company.
And let me add something to that point. Make sure you understand the reputation of the title company that you're working with.
Oh my
if you're
God,
gonna do
he
that.
couldn't have said that any better. Say that again.
Make sure you understand the reputation of the title company that you work with.
Because you want an investor-friendly title company.
Well,
continue, Corey.
Not just you want an investor-friendly title company, but some title companies don't have the best reputation. And what happens is, if you're saying you have to use my title company to close this deal, and the buyer, our real estate community is a very small community. Mm-hmm. So that buyer may say, who is your title company? And if that title company don't have the best reputation, now you're going to have a problem. You may have a problem in putting that deal under contract with that buyer because of the title company.
So you got to ask yourself, is it worth moving to perhaps the buyer's title company, or is it worth me finding another title company? You have to ask yourself that question. So that's one of the tough questions where there is no set answer. It's all a part of the business of wholesaling. These are questions that can't nobody tell you what you should do. Because a lot of times I will close with my buyer's title company if I have a relationship with my buyer. If I don't have a relationship with my buyer, I'm going to use my title company unless there's other stipulations regarding the hard money lending. So these are decisions that you will have to make as an investor once you get that deal under contract. You said that question. How much do you use? There is no set number of what the earnest money deposit will be. I'll give you an example. Frank, you got a deal that's going to give you a 6 figures. What was the earnest money deposit you put down on it? The one you're doing right now, the short sale.
$10.
How much?
$10.
$10. $10. And that's a 6-figure payday. But I have deals where I put $100 down. I have deals where I put $500,000 down. And that was a multifamily deal in downtown Mount Vernon. That was $500,000 we put down on that deal. So it all depends on the situation. However, when you're dealing with a homeowner, that number could be very little when you're dealing with a homeowner. But the easy answer for you that I can give you is, I teach my people that in 90% of the cases, you won't have to put no more than $100 down. And it's usually considerably less than that. Generally, Rick, how much we put down on Honeygo? $20. Denise, how much you put down on your property? Auction deal online. I'm going to bring a point. What was your? See, online, $5,000. Honeygo, offline, $20. Short sale, offline, $10. That's what I'm saying about online deals. Yeah, you can get them online, but you better be prepared to have that money, earnest money deposit, to lose. Kathy.
But what about the other side of it, when you're wholesaling it? What do you suggest for deposit?
Great question. What do I suggest as an earnest money deposit from the buyer? What am I going to say? Whatever you negotiate. For example, most deals that have an ARV of $150,000 or less, I'm asking anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000. Deals that have $150,000 ARV to $250,000 ARV, I'm going anywhere from $5,000 to $7,000. So you can use the ARV as a amount that I want to put down from, or I'm requesting down from my end buyer. Yes.
I'm trying to get clarity. So we put an earnest money deposit down from us to the seller?
Yes.
Oh,
No, the earnest money goes from you to the buyer. Hold on, let's back up. If you're the wholesaler, you give the seller earnest money deposit.
okay.
Then, when you get your buyer lined up, you tell him he has to pay an earnest money deposit. 9 times out of 10 is equal to or more than what you gave the seller.
Okay, so that $20, $500, that's the you between
The seller, exactly. Now, the buyer, I'm not going to tell the buyer he has to put $20 down. The buyer, I'm getting $2,000. The buyer, I'm getting $5,000. Great question. Is it non-refundable? Absolutely. I'm going to have to pry my hands off of my dead cold body to get that money back. Yes.
We have a question.
This is a question from Charles Asaf.
Okay.
What is the process of putting a property under contract?
What is the process of putting a property under contract? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is your process for putting a property under contract. And the next part is marketing for buyers. So we got the property under contract. We did those six steps, Charles. We got the property under contract for those 6 steps, doing step 1 all the way to step 6. Now we have to market for a buyer. That's where the fun begins. That's where, man, woo! This is when you sweat, because now you got a seller that is depending on you closing their deal. They could be 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, and they're looking for this money from you, and you're going for week 1, you're at week 2, you're at week 3, you're at week 4 on a 5-week contract, and now you're starting to sweat, and you don't know what you want to do. You are just calling out God's name. Praying. Please, what is wrong with this deal? And I'm going to tell you this. If you can't find a buyer in your first 14 days of you marketing a deal efficiently, that is a bad deal. So if you have a deal that's over 14 days of you marketing it, and you market the heck out of that deal, there's only 3 reasons why a property don't sell, Charles. Location, condition, or price. Those are your 3 reasons. If it's not one of those 3, then 9 times out of 10, you didn't do enough marketing. If it's not among those 3.
Well, real quick, we have several questions online. Okay.
Go ahead.
Is 1 through 7 done without a license?
I don't know how I missed that question. Do you need a license to do wholesaling? Absolutely not, unless you're in one of the 3 locations where I said Ohio, Chicago, and Philadelphia. But anywhere else, you do not need a license to do wholesaling. None whatsoever. Online.
All right. Our first question is from Miss Annabelle Lee. She said, if I buy and hold houses for rent, should I still try to buy wholesale? And what should I do with the money?
First of all, give me the money. If you buy properties for rent, should you also do wholesaling? I'm not going to say it's a should. I'm going to say that the reason for wholesaling is quick cash. If that's what you want, quick cash over the amount that you're generating rental, then yes, that's one of the ways to do and get the quick cash is wholesaling. Now, what should you do with the money? I'm a firm believer. Put it back into your rentals. Put it back into buy and hold opportunities. Look for passive income revenue streams. That's what you should do for your money. That was the biggest mistake I made early on in this business. Oh my God, I would go to Miami and rent a yacht. I would do this and do that. Man, I was like that guy who just could not stop making money. Because in this business, the money you make comes from what your knowledge is. And when you have that knowledge, you can make as much money a month as you want. Think about this. In real estate investing, we don't get paid by the hour. We get paid by the thought. All you got to do is think of a strategy. Think of a way to generate 5, 6, 7 figures. And you can achieve it with the right plan in place with real estate. You literally can do it. This young lady, $17,000 last month. Frank is going to make 6 figures. Quan is in the room. Quan made, I think, $16,000.
Raise your hand, Quan. There you go.
Who else? Denise
Cliff.
got a deal she's great clothes on. Cliff, where you at?
He's over here, to my right.
Cliff, what was your profit? 20,000. 1 month. Wholesaling. So this is not theory. This isn't stuff that was working 6 months ago, 12 months ago. These are people that are doing it now. Forget about me who've been in it for 30 years. Well, Charles, you got 30 years worth of experience. How are we going to get to the level you are? You don't have to get to the level where I am. It's not about beating or getting in a foot race and beating someone. Your only competition is you. Mm-hmm. The biggest issue we have in our community is a scarcity mentality. We don't want nobody to eat from our breadcrumbs. We don't want nobody to take anything from us, so we're not going to share that information. That's why my wife and I started this meetup group as a way to give back to us. It's all about what you want to do in this business. Another question online.
Well, real quick, I wanted to add to two of those questions. One, even though you may already be a buy and hold investor, a fix and flip investor, one of the things I tell people is the fact that wholesaling is like an entry-level position, right? So if you understand wholesaling, which means you understand how to find the deal, you understand how to negotiate the deal, you understand how to put the deal under contract, and you're doing it at a discount. Now, if you are a buy and hold investor or a rehab investor, that means that you just increased your profit off of your deals because you know how to do those things versus having a middleman. Also, to kind of help you out a little bit, when it comes to being an agent, right? And by definition, with an agent, right, when you're dealing with a license, the reason why you need an agent, not for this, but normally a person needs an agent, is because you're negotiating on somebody else's behalf. You're representing someone else. You're representing a buyer. You're representing a seller. However, if you are a person who's looking to purchase your home or purchase a home, you don't necessarily need an agent to do that, to negotiate and things like that. So now you're not representing the seller nor representing the buyer. You're representing your equitable rights that you're going to put under contract, if that makes it a little easy for you.
Online.
All right, we have a title question from Sean Hagner. I never had a title fee of more than a couple $100. Mm-hmm. What might cause a title fee to be $1,000?
Ooh. Let's put it like this. You have situations where you're going to have a person who cannot be found. And now the title company has to go out and find this individual, get this lien taken off the property, and perform quiet desettlement on a deal. You have situations where, man, what if I did this paperwork this way and I go to closing and come to find out I used the wrong title, I used the wrong contract. I had a situation just recently, we had a deal where the seller wanted to substitute the buyer from the original contract. This was a deal from hell. I'm gonna tell you, this deal, well, before the deal I had hair. And it just kept, I can't tell you how mad I was over the way this whole thing was handled. But it closed. $20,000, $16,000 profit. So is there such a thing as a bad profit? Oh, somebody said yeah. Who said yeah? You know I'm going to call you out. Who said yeah? What's the bad profit? Okay. But how many people would not mind having the stress of making $20,000 by waiting longer than what you had to wait? So I'm not saying it because I had stress on a deal that I did was over $5 million and I had a heart attack. So stress can kill. It can. Early on in my business, my partner and I had a deal where we was rehabbing the 300 plus units. And every day I was going in night and day, working with the crews, making sure they're doing everything that's supposed to be done in the property properly. I did this night after night, week after week, month after month, until my heart said, no, you ain't. No, he ain't. My wife, Tammy, who wasn't my wife at the time, came up to the hospital.
Is that how she walks shows?
No.
Okay.
That's how I saw it, because like it was my angel coming to me.
Okay. I didn't.
That's how I saw it.
I just.
And she just kindly got in the hospital bed with me. No matter what the doctor and stuff said, she tapped me on my head. It's gonna be all right. No, she didn't tap on my head like that. But what I'm trying to say is that, yes,
I need a tissue.
Stress can be a reason not to, but in most situations, every deal is going to have stress.
But let me ask you a question.
Every deal.
Let me ask you a question. Hot water, boiling hot water, right? You put a potato in boiling hot water. What happens to the potato? It softens, right? But you put an egg in boiling. See, she's always she just never go with the analogy, right? She could just never go with where we're going.
Finish the story.
So, but you have an egg. If you put an egg in boiling hot water, what happens? It gets hot. But it's the same hot water, right? So what's the old saying? Pressure bust pipes or make diamonds. That's it.
If you put your finger in a bowl of hot water.
Why would you do that though? Why? To see if it's too hot?
Exactly.
Okay.
Because somebody told me it was hot. I don't believe anything. Okay. Next, you go get your check. After you assign your contract to a buyer, you go get your check.
Ching ching.
But then you have to pray that it clears. Because I can tell you stories where checks did not clear. So, the point I'm trying to make here is the deal isn't over until what? There you go. Until the check clears.
Do you need LLC?
Do you need an LLC to wholesale? Absolutely not. You don't. You don't need it. I recommend you having it.
However,
I definitely recommend you having one. An LLC acting as an S corp. I absolutely agree that you should have one. But don't let not having an LLC get in your way. And or if you take all your money to buy for your LLC, you can't do any marketing. Don't do that. Marketing comes first. Then get the LLC once you start making money. If it's one or the other. Now, in real estate, as a wholesaler, you need a power team. That power team consists of, 1, a title company. Title company that is investor friendly, as well as somebody that has a strong reputation for working with investors, doing it successfully over time. These are your power team members. You should have these in place before you strike any type of deal wholesaling wise. Corey.
Yes, sir.
What are some of the things that a investor-friendly title company can do for you?
An investor-friendly title company, first, they know how to assign. They understand certain deal structures. They can keep you out of harm's way by advising you on maybe the verbiage or not do it this way or, different things of that nature. So they understand the deal structures and the different the contracts of an investor.
Some of the things you want an investor-friendly title company to understand: 1, how to wholesale short sales; 2, how to wholesale MLS properties; 3, how to do an LLC close; 4, how to do a double close. These are all strategies that we use as wholesalers in the business that we want that investor-friendly title company to know.
And with that, I will also say, because you may have a title company who can assign, but they don't know how to do a short sale. You may have a title company who's better at short sale, but they so with that, know your personnel, know which title company or where to go in order to make those deals happen in order to have the easiest path to success.
Now, I just gave you guys the fact that your investor title company should know these things. So when you're interviewing the investor title company, you're going to ask them, do they know these things? Do they know this terminology and how to perform it working with investors? Yes, sir. Wholesaling a short sale, the question is that a double closing? Wholesaling a short sale is what we call assignment of an LLC position. It doesn't have to be a double closing. It just has to be an assignment of the LLC. Back there.
All right, this is perfect for the title. We have an online question from Louise. He said, what are some of the issues you may face with a title company doing the wholesale deal?
What are some of the issues you can face, Corey, with a title company doing some of these wholesale deals?
Some of these, not understanding how to assign a contract.
There you go.
Or not understanding how to assign an LLC if you're looking to assign, if you're at the point of assigning an LLC contract with your deal.
So these are the most common issues of not working with investor-friendly title companies. They don't know what an assignment is. They don't understand what an LLC close is. They don't understand all these different joint venture assignments and all that kind of stuff. They don't know what that is. So those type of things can cost you money, but most importantly, cost you time that will make you lose that deal.
This question had more to do with reputation.
Say it again.
The question had more to do with reputation of the title company.
Oh, how do you, well, let me tell you one thing. When you get that company that you want to work with, one, you got to look them up online. Mm-hmm. Look at their reviews. Mm-hmm. Two, every person I'm going to work with, I will post in all my groups. Has anybody had any issues or success working with this company? Tell me what you think about this company. Let me know what you're thinking. Because there's a lot of things that can happen in this business where people who get burnt will keep their mouths shut. Mm-hmm. However, when one person starts to talk, it opens up a floodgate of issues because everybody feels empowered now to tell the bad issue or the bad problem they had with their title company. So for me, it's putting out the information about who I'm going to be doing business with in different groups and seeing if anybody had any bad experiences with them.
Any specific situation that you can recall quickly?
Yes. Corey, you go ahead and answer this.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So one title company, it still hurts me, hurts my feelings. One title company, they were supposed to pull the lien sheet and everything. Get down to the day before closing, and I get a phone call, and they say, "Oh, we pulled the lien sheet on the wrong property." $35,000 assignment fee, and they pulled the lien sheet on the wrong property. Got the lien sheet back and found out it had multiple liens on it to the point where the seller, I can't even sell the property.
Now, remember what I told you? Pray that it clears. Do not, and you bring up a very good point, and thank you for that question. Do not count that money before it comes. As new investors, man, we get a deal under contract, we start going out and buying some Yeezys. Come on, guys, the deal hasn't closed yet.
I was paying bills with that check.
Exactly.
I was going on vacation.
Exactly.
Buy my woman some stuff.
Roof Chris, everybody, let's go.
Right, exactly. Oh, man, look, I'm leaving. I'll see y'all later. I'm hurt all over again.
Yes,
yeah, just even as a realtor,
right.
Your point about following your contract, even as a realtor, I've seen where you submit the contract to the title company,
mm-hmm.
and purchase price might be $350,000, and also $35,000 $35,000, something like that. It's like, why do I have to call you and read the contract to you? You know, and it gets to the point where even, you know, my clients, I wouldn't even recommend title companies to them. I said, you know, do your own research.
And I think you bring up a very good point, because you have situations where you can't even get the title company to call the seller to come in to close it. They wait the day before instead of a week before and say, hey, we're going to have closing next week. This is something that commonly happens. That's why you have to handle your people appropriately through this process. You have to be in charge of your money at that title company. The title company works for you. It's not the other way around. They got your file. You're giving them that business. When you submit a property, make sure you get a file number, a case number, and the actual person that's handling that case. You want to be in conversation with that person at least once a week to find out what's the latest. Have you reached out to the seller? What was the latest information that you need? Is there anything that you're missing that I can help you get? Yeah, we haven't been able to reach the seller. Well, why didn't you tell me that last week? I talk to the seller every week. Well, that's another key point. Keep your seller in the loop. Mm-hmm. Let your seller know what's going on. Corey, you're about to say something.
No, that's not to say don't build relationships with title companies, though. Definitely build relationships with title companies. All title companies aren't built the same.
Yep.
You know, but those title companies, if they have that relationship with you, they're going to help you get out of stuff or get around stuff in some of these deals. And you can always, like one of my title companies, I call them all the time just to throw stuff by him and say, yeah, you can, or let's do it this way, to help me out with deals and negotiate.
Remember we talked about earlier where you choose your title company? The reason why, because you have the relationship. Mm-hmm. You don't have to worry about the title companies looking out for that other person lying to you, because they do lie.
They do?
They do lie.
I didn't know that.
Covering that other person, because that title company wants your business and has built the relationship with you. That's why we say make sure as the wholesaler you get a relationship with a title company that you build a relationship over time doing deals.
We have questions over
in the
here.
back. We had a question here, but she had it first. No, come back.
Not her. I'm sorry, not the point, but in the back.
There is, you're using that word. You're using that word.
Well, the other question, can you?
No, I'm going to answer your question. In regards to 1 through 10, if you have a contract date, the timeline is to the end of that contract date. So if you say your date is 45 days, your timeline can take place in regards to that 45 days for your step 9 to close, to 10. Now, as far as getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that is based on your marketing. How many leads you get, how quickly you handle those leads, and so on. There is no timeline that you should say, as a wholesaler, I should get a deal in 30 days.
Well, in terms of when you get the deal, in terms of when you sell it, can you negotiate?
It's already, when you get the deal, you negotiated the contract. The contract states how long it should last. So based on that length of that contract, that's all you can do. Now, we have gotten extensions. In fact, a lot of times we get extensions where we deal with actual deals that go past. We recently had 2 deals that do the same thing, where it went past the contract date and we had to get an extension. I got one right now that I'm working with George. He given us 2 extensions so far because the actual title work isn't done yet. So yes, you will go past that date, but prior to that date, you have to go to that seller and say, we need an extension. And or the buyer, because in our case, the buyer, we need an extension.
And with the title company, you mentioned a check. Nowadays, a lot of times.
Oh yeah, wire transfers and so on. I was just being funny. Let me tell you guys, my number one way to get money from my title company is a wire transfer. I give them my wire information. They send me the information. If the information is in by 12, I get it the same day. If it's after 1, I get it the next day. So normally that's when it's done. However, I just had a title company that took 3 days to make a wire. So everything is in reason in regards to how it's supposed to go, but then there's how it actually goes. Somebody else. Yes, yes.
My question was,
Go ahead.
my question is this. So do we pay as a wholesaler, do I pay that title company up front, or do they get paid on the back end when we close out deals?
They get paid.
Well, you can answer that one. Go ahead.
They get paid when you close the deal.
And they don't get paid from you. They get paid from the buyer.
So it's basically the proceeds of the deal, right? So from all the proceeds of the deal, that's where all the fees and everything comes out of.
However, they only get paid if in your contract it says buyer pays all closing costs. That's the contingency you have to write in your contract. If you don't have that in there, that buyer isn't paying the closing costs. They're going to shift the closing costs over to the seller, and that seller may back out of that deal. So you have to say in your contract, buyer pays all closing costs. Yes.
Okay, so I have a couple questions. So one, I wanted to know who pays me, the wholesaler, because I've heard, I have the earnest money that I pay to the.
That's a great question.
Then I have the earnest money that's paid to
Mhm.
from the buyer.
That's a great question.
So let's say the deal does close. What happens to all those earnest money deposits?
Okay.
And then how do I even get paid at the end?
Okay, the question is who pays her? What happened to the earnest money deposit? How does she get paid at the end? And we're going to answer that per question after we come from our break.
Oh, I was ready to answer. Okay.
Let's take a break. 15 minutes. I'll see you back at 12:15.